Now that you have learned a bit about the founders of the IHM community, I would like to tell you the story of the Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, an amazing adventure. The story of the Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, or the IHMs as they are often called, is a story of God's powerful grace at work in the hearts of some extraordinary people, namely Father Louis Florent Gillet, Mother Teresa Maxis, and the first IHM sisters. To begin the story, we meet Father Louis Florent Gillet, an enthusiastic young Catholic priest from Belgium, who was a member of the missionary religious congregation, the Redemptorists. In the spirit of St. Alphonsus Liguori, Father Gillet was sent to America. In addition to celebrating Mass in a parish, for a short time Father Gillet also became the chaplain and instructor for a community of sisters in Baltimore, the Oblate Sisters of Providence. Little did Father Gillet realize that his brief association with these sisters would have historical consequences. Next, we meet the second extraordinary person in the IHM story, Mother Teresa Maxis, who was one of those sisters. At age 19, she asked to join the Oblate Sisters and became the fourth member of the community. In religious life, she became known as Sister Mary Teresa. Now, it just so happened when Father Gillet was in Baltimore, there was a special meeting of all the bishops in the U.S. taking place at the same time. Bishop Peter Paul Lefebvre of the Diocese of Detroit, Michigan, was one of the bishops who attended. He was very interested in having some Redemptorist priests come to his diocese. This was a perfect fit for Father Gillet, and he and a few other Redemptorist companions made their way to Monroe, Michigan. When Father Gillet arrived in Monroe, he was greatly distressed about the lack of faith-based schools. This serious problem would become his mission. When he could not find financial help or any sisters to begin a Catholic school, he thought and prayed long and hard. Finally, inspired by the Holy Spirit, he came to this momentous decision. If I cannot find a religious community, I shall organize one. Father Gillet set out to do just that. In the late spring of 1843, Father Gillet met Thérèse Renaud, a 21-year-old young woman who lived in the small Michigan town of Grosse Pointe. Thérèse secretly possessed a deep desire to devote her heart and her life to the service of God. She had never even seen a religious sister, but Father Gillet recognized in her the signs of a vocation. He confided to her his dream of beginning a new religious community. Meanwhile, Thérèse prepared herself at home for the call she so eagerly awaited by prayer, service, and sacrifice. Our Lady never disappoints. Thérèse was not quite 24 years old when Father Gillet invited her to become one of the first members of the new community of sisters he wished to begin. She would be joined by two other pioneers who came from the Baltimore community of the Oblate Sisters of Providence, the very community Father Gillet had met when he was in Baltimore. For the first 2 years, this new little community was known as Sisters of Providence. However, in 1847, the name of the community was changed to Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, to reflect the sisters' desire to imitate the Blessed Mother in her openness to grace and readiness to serve. On November 10th, these three young courageous women met in St. Mary Church in Monroe, Michigan. After Mass, Father Gillet returned to the sanctuary, offered a prayer, and rested his stole upon the shoulder of each sister. This little ritual symbolized their cooperation in the work of the Church. It was also a recognition of the importance of community. The group understood that what one can do well, two can do better, but a community can do best of all. For Thérèse Renaud, this was her first experience of religious life. Today we would say that she entered the community as a postulant, the first step in becoming a sister. When Thérèse became the first novice of the IHM community, which is the second step, she received the religious habit and her new religious name, Sister Mary Celestine. The ceremony took place on December 8th. This is now the major feast day of all sister servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That first winter was very harsh for these first three IHM sisters. Their first convent and school consisted of 2 leaky log cabins. On rainy days, the sisters had to go with an umbrella to take the dishes out, and they would often be sprinkled with rain in the small dining room. Even with all these inconveniences, the sisters were very happy and lighthearted. Amazingly, the first announcement of the new school appeared in the Monroe Journal of December 25th, just 1 month after the sisters had arrived in Monroe. The school was named Young Ladies Academy, and it opened on January 15th with 40 day students and 4 boarding students. Over time, the community also moved to Pennsylvania and were asked by Bishop John Newman, the Bishop of the Diocese of Philadelphia, to come to Philadelphia. From that Founders Day until the present time, the IHM sisters have found great joy in being with God's people in schools and parishes, religious education programs, and in the many ways they continue to serve the church. They want to share their God-given gifts with everyone they meet. These special God-given gifts are called the IHM charism, which is made up of the virtues of creative hope, love, and fidelity. This IHM charism becomes real when it is put into action. The IHM sisters also claim 2 powerful sources of spiritual strength, prayer and the Holy Eucharist. Today, the IHM sisters continue to welcome new members, young women who are as adventurous as those first 3 pioneer sisters, and who desire to give their lives to God and to the service of God's people. May many more generous young women hear God's call and take their place in the remarkable IHM story, along with Father Gillet, Mother Teresa Maxis, and the first IHM sisters.